Hello, good morning students. So we have started the chapter elements, compounds and mixtures, and we have completed those three topics. Today we are going to have some idea about elements, compounds and mixtures, where you can see here like mixture, properties of mixture. Today we will discuss. So in properties of mixture, the first point is in your book that in mixture the constituents may be present in any proportion. Suppose if you are making sugar solution and your friend is also making sugar solution, okay, then what happen that you can add sugar in any amount, in any proportion that you like. And your friend is, if he or she is also making a sugar solution, then he or she can also add any amount of sugar that they like to drink, that much amount, okay, they will add. That means you're going to make a mixture. How you're going to make a mixture? By adding any amount in the water. So we can say that in mixture the constituents may be present in any proportion. Then mixtures show the properties of all the constituents present there. Like if I'm making lemonade, how you're going to make lemonade? First of all, you're going to take water and you're going to add lemon and sugar into it. That means if you test the solution, you will get that solution showing all the properties of the constituents. Means it will show the property of water also, lemon also and sugar also. So you can get that lemonade prepared by adding lemon, water and sugar. So that is why we can say that it shows the properties of all the constituents present therein. Then during the preparation of a mixture, energy such as heat, light and electricity is neither absorbed nor evolved. That means if you're making a mixture, no energy is involved into it. We can say that because we know that a mixture is a combination of two or more substances that are combined physically but not chemically. If it is combined chemically, if any substance combined chemically, then we know that mixtures are not formed. Mixtures are formed when the substances are combined physically. Then mixtures are heterogeneous. Actually, mixtures are both homogeneous also and heterogeneous also. Homogeneous, when mixtures are homogeneous, like sugar solution, if you are adding sugar into water, it is homogeneous. Salt into water, it is also homogeneous. But when mixtures like iron powder and sulfur are added, they are heterogeneous. That means except solution, all mixtures are heterogeneous. Like in activity, one demonstration is given that when sulfur and iron are mixed in any proportion, then that is a mixture. Now if you take iron and sulfur in a stoichiometric amount and if you heat it, the compound iron sulfide is formed. Suppose you are taking iron and sulfur in a test tube in a stoichiometric amount. Then if you heat it, if you supply heat into it, you will get iron sulfide. Now we know that when iron powder is mixed with sulfur in any proportion, the components retain their properties. Means it will show the properties of both elements. Means both, like iron powder's properties also it will show, and sulfur's properties also it will show. So the mixture retain the property of iron powder also and sulfur also. And here it is written that it can be separated with the help of a magnet. If you bring magnet to this mixture, you will separate these two mixture, means iron powder and sulfur you can get easily. Then so now we know that properties of mixtures, all the properties of mixture you can see here. Then one thing I want to tell you, that what is gunpowder, you know. So a mixture which is having like potassium nitrate, sulfur and charcoal, if you mix these three substances you will get gunpowder. So if a question comes what is gunpowder, you say that a mixture of potassium nitrate, sulfur and charcoal is called gunpowder. So now we are going to learn about separation of mixture, how you are going to separate these two mixtures. See, mixture are those which are formed by combining physically, right? So if you combine any two substances and forming a mixture, then those substances can be separated by using some methods. Like you can see here, the method to be used is used for separating a mixture depends on the nature of its constituents. Means it depends on the nature of its constituents, like what are the nature of those constituents. The separation depends on the nature. So from here we are going to learn about how you're going to separate a soluble solid from its solution. So we are going to learn about separation technique, like how you can separate a soluble solid from its solution, means solid from liquid. How you are going to find it out? When a solid which is soluble in any liquid, how you are going to separate it? So the first separation technique is evaporation. Evaporation means, you know, that if you are going to heat a liquid and when it turns into vapor, evaporation takes place. So suppose if I'm having a salt solution, you can see here in the figure, if I'm having a salt solution and if I'm going to supply heat, then what happen? Water is going to evaporate and slowly all the water evaporates and only salt residue will be behind land. You can see here that evaporation is used to separate sodium chloride from a mixture of sodium chloride and water. So when the mixture of sodium chloride and water is heated, the water particles turn from a liquid to a gas and then escape from the beaker. And what is left behind? The sodium chloride is left behind in the evaporating dish. That means both the things you will get it. You will get all the constituents, means like water and sodium chloride you will get. We know that wet cloths dry up due to the evaporation of water. You have read this topic in physical and chemical changes. The next separation technique is crystallization. So crystallization is a separation technique that is used to separate a solid that has dissolved in a liquid and made a solution. So the solution is formed in an open container, allowing the solvent to evaporate and leaving a saturated solution. So a solution that has as much solid dissolved in it as it can possibly contain is called a saturated solution. You know that. So as the saturated solution is allowed to cool, the solid will come out of the solution and crystal will start to grow. The crystals can then be collected and allowed to dry. So this is the whole process of crystallization. And you can see in the book, in the activity, how they are going to find alum crystal. It's given. Like you can see here the procedure. Heat about 50 ml of distilled water in a china dish or in a beaker and boil it. Now remove the beaker or china dish from the flame and place it on table. Then add alum into the hot water. Half spoon of alum into hot water. Then stir to dissolve. Keep adding alum into the solution until no more alum can be dissolved. That means you have to reach the state of what solution? Saturated solution. Then heat the solution on a low flame to dissolve any undissolved alum. Filter the hot solution through a filter paper and collect the filtrate in another dish. Then the insoluble impurities left behind on the filter paper. Allow the hot filtrate to cool about an hour. You will see that the crystals of alum in the china dish or in a beaker. Now separate the crystals from the solution, dry them. You will get the crystals of alum. The same process here they are applying, but here they are getting the a crystal of copper sulfate solution. So you can say that common salt is obtained from seawater by evaporation and crystallization also. So water evaporates, leaving behind the crystals of common salt, and that's where you're getting common salt, and then they are sending those common salt to the factories to purify it. So like that they are purifying common salt. So in the next class we will study about how we are going to separate miscible liquids from each other. Study well. Thank you.